Hey guys, my guest tonight, Howard Riback, will be talking about his experiences with gambling addiction and what he's doing now to help others. See you in about 5 minutes. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Oh no. Never fails, does it? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to California Haunts Radio. I'm going to be your host tonight for the next hour, I hope, the way this is going already. My name is Charlotte. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state of California, which means if you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. I'm just looking at something real quick, waiting for a graphic to come up. Anything that can go wrong has today. But anyway, welcome. We got a great show for you tonight. Like I always tell you guys, I'm a journalist, a photojournalist, and so I like to change it up a lot on the show. So I don't always have the same topics going on. And tonight's guest, Howard Riback, and I hope I have his name right, is a recovering gambler. And he has a great story to tell in that he now helps other people who have gambling issues. And so he's going to tell us how he does that, and he's going to tell us his story and how he helps others. Give me a minute or so here. This graphic that was supposed to come up. There we go. Give me a minute to pull the graphic up, guys. Okay, the graphic is part of what we're doing here. So give me a second. You're going to see a lot more of me in a second here. Let me move this over. Make sure I can get this. I don't believe it. Is it not going in? Hang on a second. This is like the second time I've done this graphic and it doesn't seem to like me. There we are. Okay. This is going to be a phone interview, so like I do with all the other phone interviews, I usually run a graphic, and for some reason today the graphic just wasn't feeling it. It didn't want to come in today, so this is like the third time I've done it, so hopefully 3 times the charm. But anyway, again, after introducing my team, if you're watching from Facebook tonight and you haven't done so before, and welcome. I want to welcome everybody in who's new, who hasn't watched the show before. If you're watching from Facebook tonight and you like what you see, please be sure to hit that like button, thumbs up, smileys, whatever it is you hit. Because what it does is it puts us up higher in the algorithm and keeps us up there and puts the shot to more people. If you're watching from YouTube, same thing. Hit those like buttons and the happy faces and the hearts and all that good stuff. Okay. I feel like I'm thrown off a little bit today, and I am. Give me a minute here to gather my thoughts. I don't like doing last minute things like this or having things go wrong. There's going to be a bloopers reel coming out too, by the way. If you want to comment on what's going on during the show, feel free to do so. We do have an open chat room, so any of your suggestions or questions are wanted. But once we get rolling here, we're going to be live directly talking with Howard. And I'm really, like I said, I'm excited about this. I worked when I was working up in the foothills up here in Sacramento as a reporter. They were just putting in one of the Native American casinos up there. And a lot of the parents, at that time, I never even thought about gambling as an addiction. So a lot of the parents would call me at the newspaper and say, oh my gosh, my kids are going to turn into gamblers. They're going to get addicted and all this is going to happen. And I just thought, well, they just don't want the casino up here because, it's a casino. So now that I've been around longer as a news reporter, almost 25 years, I understand what they're talking about. And gambling can be addictive. I mean, yeah, absolutely addictive. Okay, well, let me give Howard a call and we'll get started here. And I apologize for the kind of jumpy beginning of the show. But it is going to be on the phone, so you guys don't have to watch me. You guys can kind of like hang out or whatever you want to do. Go have dinner. So let me get this call going. Hi, Howard. How you doing?
Hey, Charlotte. I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm doing okay. Fairly good.
Nice to finally say
It is. It's great to talk to you.
Wonderful. How are we doing? Is the connection okay?
Yep, sounds great.
All right. Are we on a delay, Charlotte, or no? Straight up.
I don't think we're on a delay.
Okay. Where are we? 6:06 in LA?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So, do you edit this at all, or we're live to go?
We are live right now.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, hi everybody in Radio Land. Thanks for spending your time with Charlotte and myself. I appreciate it.
Tell me about you, sir.
We only have an hour. I'm 63. It would be too long to show. I'm sure. What can I tell you? To summarize, 1/3 of my life was normal, 1/3 was messed up, and now 1/3 is normal again. So you got to figure, 67% of my life has been great, but the 1/3 in the middle was really messed up, all due to gambling and my stupidity. Does that basically summarize it and sum it up and tell you how honest I am?
Absolutely. Tell me about your gambling issue.
A gambling issue. My gambling issue is the following. I come from a great middle-class family here in Montreal, Canada. I always wanted for nothing. Dad was a lawyer. Mom was a business lady. Brother in showbiz. Out in LA, by the way. My late sister was a Cornell and Ivy League graduate, and I wanted nothing in the world. I somehow took a left turn when I should have taken a right turn and got into the world of gambling. Fell in love with gambling. Fell in love with the casino. Fell in love with the whole 9 yards, the money, the shows, the entire world of gambling, and it went on to ruin my life. That's, in a nutshell, that's what happened.
Well, when you say fell in love, I can understand that. I mean, I've been to some of those casinos, and they're pretty spectacular. You know, so I can see how somebody could really fall for the bright lights and all that. Is that what happened?
Well, you know, as they say, 93 or 94% of those that go to a casino are okay. They go for the reason for which they were built, which is basically to have fun, whether it's gambling, to eat in the great restaurants, to shop, to see a show, people, sightsee, which is great. But the 4, 5, or 6% of people like me, or like I used to be, we take it to a whole new level. We don't care about anything in the place aside from gambling and money and money and money, and it becomes to a point where it's never enough. It's like a buffet. It's just never enough. And they say that, you know, 5% of those that gamble are pathological gamblers, which I categorically was, and it just consumed my life. It took over my complete DNA, and it reached a point where my family and friends called me out on it because I was messing up so much. And thank God that they did what they did. My family conducted a intervention in Los Angeles, as a matter of fact, and thank God they did. Thank God they knew what they were doing. Thank God I gave in and let them do what it was they're doing, which is ironic because now I do what it was they did then. And it worked. But up until that point, Charlotte, it was a complete and utter nightmare, and I made a mess of my life. I seldom like to use the word happily, but I will use the word happily. Happily, not only turned things around, but went back to university at 39 years old to become what's called a doctor adjunct in the world of gambling addiction. And now I teach dealers, I teach people, I teach law enforcement, I work with loan sharks, I try and get people out of their problems. My nickname is called the Cleaner. And everybody that walks into my office, there really isn't a story that I haven't heard. And as I mention all the time, that it takes one to know one. And that if somebody comes to see me, I am not just somebody that has studied it, in other words, book-wise. I've lived it, which makes it a big difference. I mean, how do you go to a marriage counselor if somebody was never married? Right. How do you go to a divorce lawyer if they were never divorced or married? So I can goes in the door very quickly. It doesn't work.
Gotcha. When you first started gambling, what was that like, and how did it gradually build up to where you were, addicted to doing it?
Well, it was a case of it was never enough. If I made $1, I wanted $1.50. If I had $2, I wanted $2.50. It just became it actually evolved to a point where it was never enough. It was 3 days a week. I wanted it 7 days a week. 7 days a week. I wanted it 9 days a week. You have to remember, you're talking to a Canadian up here in Montreal, Canada, and up until October '93, which is going to be 30 years ago in a couple of months, there were no casinos in Canada. The only time that I had a chance to gamble was either at the local racetrack, which I really didn't care for, though my dad owned horses. But the only way for me to gamble was either to fly to Atlantic City or drive, or, of course, fly to Vegas. Because in those days, 30 years ago, you had only 2 states of the 50 states that had gambling. Now, of course, you have 46 states, with the exception of a couple of states in New England. Every state has gambling, and every province of the 10 provinces have gambling. And if you want to consider online gaming, meaning on your iPhone or on your smartphone or on your iPad or your tablet or your laptop, there is a casino in your purse, there's a casino in your wallet, there's a casino in your basement, there's a casino at the office, right?
Right.
So what it was then and what it was now are literally 2 completely different worlds.
So as you started to, get into gambling, was it a gradual thing? I mean, as far as like, okay, I'm gonna maybe go to Las Vegas and go to the casino tonight, or was it a thing where it was like you say, you got addicted so fast that, oh my God, I got to be here all the time?
Well, it's true that I would like to have moved to Henderson or Nye County or Atlantic City, but that really wasn't terribly practical. So as much as I wanted to go, it's still, Atlantic City is still a 10-hour drive from Montreal. It is about 2-3 hours past New York City from Montreal. And of course, Vegas, if you drove, it will take 3 days unless you take, a helicopter.
Right.
So as much as I wanted to go, I couldn't. So it was saved for those 2 or 3 times a year. But then again, I repeat, once casinos started opening in Canada, it just became that much easier. But at the beginning, as much as you wanted to do it, you couldn't. There was just nowhere to go.
So then, as you started gambling, what to you, what was the addiction to it? I mean, what attracted you the most to it?
Well, as some of your listeners may know, or you may know, I'm also a graduate pilot, commercial pilot. And when I was in flight school, I, unbeknownst to me, and probably unhappily so, developed and learned that I had photographic memory, which is not great in blackjack because it is good if you know how to hone in on your skill and use it properly. But let's be honest.
Right.
I lost so much. Obviously, how great was my counting? Not that great. How great was my photographic memory? Obviously, not that great. I wouldn't be doing a show about it. So it's the bravado. I thought that I was the greatest, and basically I was the anti-greatest. And I just loved the game of blackjack. I'm a math guy. I love trivia. I love the game of Jeopardy. I like to win. I'm curious. And the game of blackjack, unlike roulette, for instance, or bingo, where you hold a felt pen and you've got an end, which to me is not terribly exciting, or you go to a slot machine and put a $20 bill in and watch it flitter away in seconds. Blackjack, at least, is what I call a thinking man's game. There is a bit of an edge if you do it properly. But again, obviously I didn't do it properly or I wouldn't be doing the show.
Right,
so
right.
I just loved the game of blackjack. I enjoyed it. And by the way, let me be completely transparent. I still do.
Okay.
I still like the game. I like the math. I can play for toothpicks or for hot dogs. I just love the game.
I got you. So as you started to go through money, and obviously you would if you lost, where were you getting your money from?
Not to be rude,
Okay.
and not to go off track. That doesn't really matter where I got the money from. Suffice to say, no, hang on, let me answer you as much as I can, and I'll go right to the fence and then back up. The cardinal sin that I made, Charlotte, was I went, after I exhausted all the regular places, meaning credit cards, friends, family, business, banks, what have you, I made the cardinal sin of going to the wrong people, the nuncios of the world. And I apologize to anybody out there whose name is nuncio. It's just a joke. But I think we all understand what it is that I'm trying to say.
Right. Right.
So when you go to the nuncios of the world, you don't get frequent flyer points, you don't get to go to the lounge, and you don't get cash dollar back. You have to pay, anywhere between 3 and 5% a week. What's called juice or vig on the money that you borrowed, which of course, if you take an average of 4%, that's 208% a year. Well, nobody could ever pay back a loan at 208% interest a year. You drown, you die, and then you die again, and you keep on dying.
Okay. So about how long did you do this before your family realized that you had a problem?
I would say it was a good 8 years, 7, 8 years.
Wow.
But again, let me again be perfectly straight that in those 7, 8 years it was not a constant battle. It was not a constant time going to the casino because again, I repeat, the casino wasn't here.
Right.
You couldn't do it. And also not to date myself or to age myself, but we didn't have iPhones in those days, no laptops with all the gambling apps that we have now, which is a whole other show we can do one day. You couldn't gamble unless you physically went to a casino.
Right.
So I didn't have the luxury, which in this case, thank God, 1,000 times over, I wasn't able to go to a casino all that often. But believe me, whatever I did do, and for the amount of times I did go, it was way too many.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a sickness, Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
No different than alcoholism, shopping, sex addiction. Right now the Canadian and American governments, and of course many European countries, now call gambling addiction a disease.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pill to take, obviously, although there are some new medications coming up that suppress the dopamine going in your head. But there are classes, there's therapy, there's rehab homes, and quite frankly, part of my deal when I had the family intervention was I had to promise to go to rehab, which of course I did. And as it turned out, everybody that goes to rehab is assigned a therapist. And after a couple of weeks, the therapist that was assigned to me basically told me that I was not an addict anymore. I was just depressed because I messed up my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was her recommendation that I just get my ass out of there, go home, and start my life again. Because gambling at that point, absolutely, it sickened me, it turned me off. No different than getting food poisoning, or going on a ride at an amusement park and then wanting to go back after you vomited your head up. I had absolutely no desire to gamble. What I did have, though, and I'm happy for that, is I had a great desire to go back to university, as I said, at 39 years old, and study exactly why it was that I did what it was that I did, and why I did what it was what I did, and why others do it. And that became a passion of mine, and I'm in my early 60s. I went to school at university back in my late 30s, so I've been at this for a long, long time, and it never ceases to amaze me. No two stories are alike. Yes, people have similar problems, but as I say, I feel like the guy that puts Humpty Dumpty back together again. There's no greater feeling in the world, Charlotte, than taking somebody or their family who's broken, who comes to see me as broken, human beings, as broken individuals, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, friends, broken. And they work with me for a couple of months, and I literally am able, in most cases, to help them put them back together again. And for that, I'm thankful.
Why do people get to the point that they're addicted?
That's $1 million question. Nobody really knows. But Freud had a saying, which basically was the explanation of what insanity is, what insane is, and that is when you bang your head against the wall over and over, and you expect a different outcome. That's what people do, not realizing that the only ones that win in the world of casinos or gambling are the casino operators. You cannot win. You may be able to win temporarily, of course. No different than you might have a couple of nice days of weather in January in Montreal. It may happen, but don't come up here with your flip-flops and T-shirt and shorts, because as a rule, you're going to freeze your ass off. So it does happen. It's a phenomenon, yeah. Some people can make money, but much like the government, they never close. And in the long run, they'll bite you in the rear end, and they'll win. And they always do. And the only way to win is two ways. A, not to gamble, and B, if you own the casino. That's it. Nothing else. No other way. No other way.
Do they let you win just enough to keep you at the table?
I'm sorry?
Is it a case with the casinos where, like with you being a card player like you were, do they let you win a few hands just enough to keep you at the table?
Well, it's a great question, but it's a non sequitur.
Okay.
It's not that they let you win. Nobody lets you win.
Okay.
It's the reverse. You let yourself lose.
Okay.
It's as a pilot, we have a saying: there's no such thing in the air as a near miss. The opposite of a near miss is a near hit, right?
Right.
So if they don't let you win, we let ourselves lose. That's the way it works out, right? They don't let you do anything. They let you run the course of what gambling is all about. You will win and you will lose, but in the long run, you will lose more than you will win, which means that you're a loser and the casinos, they're winners.
Of course. So when somebody comes to you for help, what's the process you do?
Well, I'll begin by telling your audience and yourself something that very few, if any, therapists will do, and I'll just back up a little bit.
Okay.
I am not a huge believer, and I want to be very clear that this is only my opinion. I'm not telling you that I'm right, and I'm not telling you that I'm wrong, but I do have huge differences with my colleagues as gambling therapists. Number one, I believe that the best gambling therapist is somebody that has lived it. No different than being a male gynecologist. And I'm not saying this to be funny. What I'm trying to do is draw a parallel and say that when a woman goes to a male gynecologist and says, "Doc, I have a pain," and the doc says, "Oh, I understand," I say, BS. Maybe book-wise he understands, scholastically he understands, mentally he may understand, but he can't really understand because he's a guy. Meaning that I draw the parallel that when somebody goes to see a gambling therapist, you can see a therapist with 48 degrees in their wall. They may have taken 98 courses, 17 years, and I appreciate that. And I'm not making fun of that. But unless somebody lived or lives what I lived through, meaning owing the Nunzios of the world money, wanting to jump off a bridge, being taken to a bridge, and almost pushed over a bridge, almost being hopeless and homeless, sweating 3 o'clock in the morning, having headaches, having stomach aches. Unless somebody has gone through the throes of what I've gone through, in my opinion, and my opinion only, they can't understand the people that come see them as a gambling therapist.
Makes sense.
Hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And to answer your question of 4 minutes ago, the first thing that I do, Charlotte, and it's a very, very bizarre tactic, but I've been doing it for 20 plus years, is the following. I was beaten up and left for dead when I owed a lot of money 20 plus years ago. I had the police stop at a local mall and take a picture of me. If you remember those photo booths, for some of your younger listeners, maybe they don't remember, but long before the iPhone, we had photo booths in shopping centers. And for a quarter, you just step in a booth, and they would take 3 pictures, and it would come out in black and white, and there you go. So I had the cops actually take me and stop, and I took pictures. And what I do is I have a picture of me from 20 plus years ago where I look like a raccoon. I look unrecognizable. Every color under the rainbow. From green to blue to purple to black, I look like a fruit stand. Every color. Unrecognizable. And I keep that picture on my desk, in my office. And I look at it every day, never wanting to go back to that life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when somebody comes to see me the first time, Charlotte, I show them that picture. And for 5 minutes, there's silence. And it works.
Wow.
Look, man, how's that a powerful story? All true. All true.
So then, like you say, every story for every gambler is different. In what way are they different? You tell me that?
Well, every story is different. I mean, I'm responsible for taking care of over 3,500 patients over 22 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you people who have come to me wanting to pay me off because they still didn't think that they caused enough damage, and they're only here because the court ordered them,
mm-hmm.
and they still think they know better, all the way to people who are suicidal, and eventually they did off themselves because they couldn't take the embarrassment and all the money that they owed. Every story probably has about 80 to 85% of similarities, no different than alcoholism or drug users. But then what I like to say, it's like a tree. It branches out to different tentacles where the last 5 or 10% of the story is a bit different. I mean, there are stories about adolescents who wait for their parents to sleep, and they go in their purse and their wallet, and they steal the 2 debit cards,
mm-hmm.
the 2 credit cards. I'm sure you know, your listeners know, that the #1 password in the world is still either the word password or 1, 2, 3, 4. Hard to believe in 2023, but it's true.
Right.
And they take money, and they steal money from their parents, their friends. It turns you into a monster, but it's absolutely, it's unstoppable, is what it is. And it reaches a point in your life that it literally overtakes everything that you do. I remember, and I just told the story last week, but I remember to show you how sick I was, and to show you how sick some gamblers are, that I remember that I owed an incredibly large amount of money to the wrong people, and yet, here I was, thinking, 3 o'clock in the morning, where was I going to get the next pack of money to keep playing?
Wow.
And the question is, how sick is that? You know what you're doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize how much trouble you're in. You're vomiting during the day. You can't eat. You can't sleep. Your family and friends run away. Every single thing cognitively you're doing you know is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, you still want another fix. How sick is that?
Yeah, that is incredible. My other question I had too, it's fine and dandy to, go walk away and get help, but what happens to the money that you owe and the people that you owe the money to?
Well, that is another great question. That's why one of my things is the cleaner, because I invariably, one of the tasks that I do, and I'll tell you a great funny story in a minute. We have time, and
Sure. Absolutely.
is that all I have in my life in the world of gambling is my name. And I'm known to be the conduit, the middleman, the vanilla and the Oreo cookie between the bad guys and the people that borrow the money. So invariably, after a while, I'm going to make up a number, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. After you borrow the money and you pay back a minimum every couple of weeks, you paid so much interest that the wrong people have already gotten back their principal plus some interest. So not always, and I don't want to speak on behalf of every loan shark, because every loan shark runs his business a different way. But in general, I have been pretty good that I have been able to make deals with these people that's livable and everybody can be happy. I'm going to tell you a great story that I tell all the time when I'm on the air on TV. It's my favorite story about me and loan shark. And here's the story. The story is somebody had hired me to pay back a loan of $20,000. And the deal is that once you take on a loan to be paid back, it becomes my debt. In other words, if I call Mr. Smith and say, I'm taking care of Mr. Brown's debt, they go, okay. Because if you do, you owe the money now, Riback, not Mr. Brown. So that's the underlying rule. Okay, fine. So a client of mine owed $20,000, and we had settled on $17,000. And I think my fee was about $3,000. So the client ended up paying the $20,000. So his job was to put $20,000 in a shoebox, and I was going to go pay it off. And I was told, and I told the loan shark, when I have the money, I'll call you. Anyway, long story short, lo and behold, I was called by my client, and he dropped off a shoebox of $20,000 and $20 bills, blah, blah, blah. Called my guy, who's a loan shark, and I said, I'm ready, made an appointment, and I went to go see him the next day with $20,000 in a shoebox, wrapped up $20 bills in elastic bands. Straightforward story so far, right?
Right.
Easy to understand? All good? Great. Just like the opening of Get Smart, for some of your younger listeners who may not remember, walk through about 15 doors into a bar, north here in Laval, in Montreal. And finally, I had to sit down with the main player, in this case, the guy whose money it was. And I handed him the box, very polite. You know, there was 6 goons around him. And he said, is all the money here? And I went, yes. And he said the following, did you count it? And I said, yes. He goes, okay, thank you. And I turned my little rear end around, and as fast as my little 5'7" legs could take me out of there into my car, that's how quickly I went into my car, driving back to town, back to my home. Fantastic. About 6 minutes into my drive home, the phone rang. It was him. I answered the phone, and he said the following, where are you? I said, where am I? I said, I'm 7 minutes away. I just left your place. He said, turn around and come back. So, of course, doesn't matter what color pants I was wearing. They were shades of brown and beige, obviously.
Right.
I said, what's the matter? He said, what's the matter? Turn around and come back, because if not, I know where you live, but it would be a lot easier if you came back. I said, okay. Go to the next exit. Turned around. I went back to the bar. They were expecting me. Walked all the way through to the back. Sit down, he said. I sat down. And this is what happened, Charlotte. He said to me, did you count the money? I said, of course. He said, I'll ask you one more time. Did you count the money? I said, the truth is, I didn't. I made the cardinal sin of lying, and I didn't count the money. Because the money was dropped off to me very late the night before. I was tired, and I didn't count the money. And he said, in this job, Riback, you count the money. So, of course, I was ready for a beating. This is what he did. He threw 2 $20 bills at me, and he said, You overpaid.
Wow.
Yep. And I said, you couldn't have told me that on the phone? He said, no, it goes both ways. Next time, count the money. So that was a great lesson to show you that there is honesty amongst thieves. I paid $20,040, and he gave me back $40. How's that for a story?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it probably cost me $50 in new underwear, but it was quite a lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, true story.
When you started, let me ask you this too. When you started getting involved and having to go to these undesirables, we'll call them undesirables. Was it scary at first?
To say it was scary would be like saying, is there climate change?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather live on a beach or in Alaska. Of course it was scary. What, are you kidding me? A 5'7.5" white Jew against 15 guys whose names are Bubba and Nunzio. They're 6'3". And by the way, most of them are packing. I think that bothered me because looking at me, they almost gave me a heart attack. Of course it was scary. I remember the time, very often we would meet at ridiculous times, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4:15 in the park. I mean, absolutely. But I have to tell you that in complete transparency and in all honesty, again, as usual, as per always, they're not there to hurt you, Charlotte. Mm-hmm. They don't make a living with dead conduits or dead clients. Mm-hmm. They want you to honor their deal. They are very much like Visa and MasterCard or Capital One. They don't want you to pay back the principal. They make a living when you pay them their interest every week. That's where the money is. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when you make a deal with them, their word is as good as your word. That's all they want. I mean, I don't want to get fancy about it or get funny or become cocky about it or abrasive, but their job is to lend you money, and your job as somebody that takes the money is to pay it back. No different than a credit card company. I mean, I would rather pay 29.9% than 209%, mm-hmm. But it's both offensive, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's a great story. There's a great story that I tell. I don't know what intro you may have given your listeners, but aside from being a gambling therapist, I'm a mediator. Okay. In the province of Quebec. And mediation basically is what I do when it comes to gambling therapists anyway. And there's a great story that I was in Toronto, and for some of your listeners, they should know Toronto is the biggest city in Ontario, whereas Montreal is the biggest city in Quebec. Quebec would be like Arizona, Ontario would be like California. It's a 5.5-hour drive. And I was in Toronto seeing patients, and I had pulled into a gas station simply to fill up gas and go to my hotel and get ready for my appointment. What happened was, as I was walking into the gas station to pay, I noticed everybody running out, which I found very odd. Long story short, when I walked into the little hut where I was to pay, where they sold donuts and soft drinks and what have you, right? They were being robbed, and the guy was waving a gun at the cashier, and I basically walked in an armed robbery. And before you knew it, it was me, the guy waving the gun, and the young fellow behind the cash who turned every color under the rainbow, and he too had brown pants, I think. And the man told me to, as in the movies, put your hands up, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no. I do this for a living. I said to him, what are you doing? He said, do you see that I have a gun? To make a long story short, I said, listen, you are going to have this building surrounded by cops in a few minutes anyway. I'm a mediator. I've had some pretty bad days in my life. Let me work with you. Let the cashier out. He said, why? I said, because you have me. You have my brand new car outside. Here are the keys. Let the guy go. There's only $50 or $60 eventually let the cashier go. And before you knew it, the entire building with bay windows, top to bottom, floor to ceiling, was surrounded by police, about 8 cars, about 16 to 18 cops. And I had motioned to the cops not to move, that I was okay. And I talked the guy down. And what happened was, while I was fighting with him, I had asked him if he was hungry. And he said, "Am I hungry? What are you talking about?" I said, "Look, you're robbing the place anyway. Go get us a couple of Cokes and a couple of chocolate bars." And he did. He said, "I can't do that." I said, "You're robbing the place. Of course you can do that." Anyway, long story short, we had Cokes together. We had a couple of donuts and chocolate bars together. And I promised him that if he just puts the gun down, which he did, and I kicked it away. Me and guns don't exactly get along. Kicked the gun away. I said, "I'll come with you to the police station. I'll help you." Long story short, instead of getting 3 years, he got 90 days house arrest. After the first 2 years, his wife would call me and thank me, and they send me Christmas cards. Yeah, true story.
Nice. No, very nice. Very nice.
Crazy story. Yeah.
When you go through treatment for addiction,
I'm sorry?
when you go through treatment for addiction, what's the process? I mean, obviously, there's that first meeting, like you spoke of. But what happens after that, and how long does it usually take?
Well, I'm going to tell you that going to rehab or the program is probably like comparing snowflakes, meaning there are no two programs alike. Normally, the program, Charlotte, lasts anywhere between 66 days and 120 days. But there's no usual, there's no steadfast program. That's usually what it is. One of the ugly statistics about rehab, which I don't mind discussing because, let's be honest, is that the average person goes to rehab 3.5 times, which obviously means that when you go to rehab the first time for 90 days, you relapse. And when you go back a second time, you relapse. And when you go back a third time, you relapse. I really am 1/10 of 1% of the people that got it. That doesn't mean that others won't get it, but you have to really be committed. No different than going on a diet, no different than working out, no different than many things in life. But as a rule, it's very, very difficult once you're in the throes of an addiction. And we're talking about gambling addiction tonight, of course.
Right.
But the program itself normally is you're inside for, like I said, 66 days. But you have to remember, out of a 7-day week in the rehab center, on the weekends, there's nothing going on. Mostly sports, movies, downtime. And during the week, there's only rehab and therapy in the morning for a few hours. And in the afternoon, every other day, in general, this is not the rule. In general, I'm saying, every rehab home runs differently. Everybody's assigned their own therapist. I think that I only saw my therapist 3 times a week for about an hour and a half at a time. So you got to figure there are 168 hours in a week.
Right.
Think your own private therapist for an hour and a half. That means 3.5. Excuse me, my math isn't too good. That's why I lost the blank check. 4.5 hours a week. 4.5 hours a week out of 168 hours is not really a huge amount of time for one-on-one help, right? Whereas if you come to see me in a private setting, you come to see me twice a week for an hour and a half or 2 hours each, and I'll knock the bejeebers out of you, and I'm known to be not a fluffy, stuffy kind of guy. It's nuts and bolts. You came here. That's not to say that I'm going to be able.
Right.
But we came here with a problem, and we're going to fix it. This is not a joke. This is not funny. There's nothing funny about it. I have seen suicides. I have seen people blow their brains out. I have been to crime scenes. People jumped in front of a subway. People have jumped off bridges. People have beaten the crap out of their partners. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. Casinos are not all great fancy meals and women dressed in short dresses serving drinks. This is not a joke. Gambling addiction is serious business, and if anybody has a problem, if not me, I suggest that they get help. In general, it just gets worse. It doesn't get better.
What are some of the signs to look for, in people?
Well, that's one of my fortes. I love to go, I don't say love, that may be wrong, but at this point, maybe after 30-odd years, 40 years in the business, when I go to a casino, normally within the first couple of minutes, I can spot a pathological gambler. Somebody might be talking to the machine, talking to the playing cards if they're playing pie gow or playing blackjack. They're sweating, they're fidgeting, they're nervous, their fingers are going a mile a minute. They're not themselves. They look like they're possessed. Talk about the paranormal. I call it para-abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
It's people who are not in their right mind, but who would be if they were home watching TV with their family. The entire building, the entire act of gambling is all-encompassing. You feel that you have assistance, you feel you can beat it, and you have a look in your eyes. The eyes are soulless. Your eyes are hollow. It looks like you are possessed. And instead of going to the casino and walking in with a smile on your face and walking out with a smile on your face, I always say the following. Look at the doors. Look at the doors. Look at the entrance. And you will see people holding their hands with each other, smiling, laughing, cajoling, kibitzing, smiling. Now look at the exit doors. Looking at the carpet, not talking, not holding the hand of their partner. Do we see a pattern here?
Yeah. That's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating.
It is to the point where I am urging, and in Canada, I am working with the federal government ever so lightly right now, just starting about 8 weeks ago, working with the federal minister, which the equivalent in the United States would be working with people in D.C., your governor and your senators, to lobby for anti-gambling programs. Now, let me be clear. Like smoking, like drinking, like prostitution, whether it's legal or illegal, it's not going anywhere. There's too much money. It cannot go anywhere. So we, as Canadian and American citizens, have no choice but to learn to live with it because it's not going anywhere. We can't keep blaming them. What I want to do is I want to swim with the fish. I want to work with the legislators. I want to work with the casino operators. I want to work with the governor, with the senators, with what we call the equivalent MPs, ministers of parliament, meaning the people who work under our prime minister or in the states under the president and the vice president. We have to be able to work together. I would love for kids to learn about gambling in high school the same way they learn about geography. It's very important. It's too easy to fall into a trap of gambling, of owing money. It's too easy, Charlotte. It's too easy, and the price that people pay is too difficult.
Well, it's like anything else. It's like even playing the slot machines. I mean, even with me, you start playing, and then all of a sudden you win a little bit, and then you think, well, if I put some more in there, I'll win more. This machine's ready to hit. I can feel it. And then the next thing you know, all the money you brought in, boom, gone.
I want to have all the respect in the world for you and all your listeners, but when somebody tells me they have a feeling, I must laugh hilariously to myself. There is no such thing as a feeling. In a slot machine, which is roughly 2/3 the size of an ATM machine, in some cases bigger, it's run by the same size SIM card in anybody's cell phone. There are millions and millions and millions of algorithms, meaning you can feel, you can think, you can look, you can watch, you can study. It's all BS. Every time you press a button or you pull that lever, God knows what's going to happen next. There is no such thing as a zero. You realize that, of course.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, that's what people think, though. When they're playing. I mean, that's just the mentality that they have, and that's what keeps them going and putting the money in there.
As I always say, we have to remember that the people that build casinos are not dummies. It's built by engineers, psychiatrists, therapists, psychiatrists, people who understand the human genome, that every time you put $1 in the slot machine, it will pay 94 cents. What does that mean? It means you're going to lose 6 cents.
Right.
The house will make 6 cents. So if you make 94 cents on $1, start again. Put the 94 cents in. You will win 89 cents.
Right.
Put the 89 cents in. You will win 83 cents. Keep on doing it. You'll end up with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
As a good friend of mine once said, Las Vegas was not built by winners.
Absolutely.
It's a fascinating world, and they try and promote the world of casinos where we can have fun, which is the way it should be. And let me reiterate that 94 or 95% of the people who walk into a casino are not sick, and they do have fun, and they do go to the casino, and they do go to Vegas, and they do go to Atlantic City for the right reason. But I'm worrying about the 5, 6, or 7% of the people that don't go for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm worried about. That's what I've dedicated my life to. I'm not worrying about those people that go for the right reasons. It's 7% of those, a lot of people. The United States has 400 million people. They say 1/3 of all Americans of age gamble at least once a month. A third of 400 million people is 135 million people. A third of that, 40 million people a month gamble at least once. You do the math and you wonder why there's so much trouble.
So what happens to somebody that goes into therapy, but they still owe money to, say, a loan shark? How does that work?
It doesn't work because a loan shark doesn't care if you go to rehab or not. Number one, if they can't catch you, they will wait till you come out, or they will approach the family.
Mm-hmm.
Loan sharks are not known to go away. They're like the IRS. They're not going anywhere. You can go away to Cuba for a week and come back, and you know what? The IRS will still be open.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was curious about that.
Nobody's going anywhere.
I was curious about that. I think it's great what you're doing. That you were able to turn your own story around to help others. I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
Thank you. It's become a passion of mine. It's taken me around the world. I get to teach. I get to help. I get to see different countries. I get to spend a lot of time in casinos, which I happen to love.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. The only problem is I'm now on the other side of the fence.
Right. So when you're talking to people and you tell them your story, can you tell by looking out at the audience, who might be going through something and who isn't?
I gave a seminar a couple of months ago to a certain group of government employees. There were about 250 people in the room, and I can say that 10% of the people, 25 to 30 people, were fidgeting, Charlotte, in their chair. They were sweating. They were looking around to see who was looking at them, meaning 100%. I could tell, of course. Not all the time, not every person, but in general, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. It takes one to know one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to say that I was one. I am not one now, but you never forget from where you came from.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
Never. It's ingrained in me, and I I can sit at a blackjack table, for argument's sake, and I don't want all your listeners to go, what do you mean? Allow me to finish. If I'm there on a case because the husband says, I think my wife is at the casino, or the wife says, I think my husband is there, so I'm given money to play with to try and out them out, to take pictures. I won't get into too much graphic detail, but I can tell who's there to have fun and who's there to try and make their rent money for the next couple of months. There's a certain look in people which is a very, very, as I said before, it's a hollow, soul-filled look in their eyes, Charlotte, which is so unfortunate, so sad, so pathetic, so egregious, so ugly, so unsettling that very often I try and pull them aside, and yes, I have, on a number of occasions, gotten into trouble by the casinos telling me to mind my own business, but in the same breath, allow me to say this. Most of my business comes from law enforcement or casino employees who tell players, look, I can't tell you to leave. Well, why don't you call Mr. Riback, blah, 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 and I'll give them my name and number. And that's where a lot of my clients come from. I mean, we're all in this together. If you're a bartender and you know somebody's going to drive home, you don't want to give them 8 gin and tonics because they're going to have an accident.
Right.
And then, mothers against drunk drivers and now fathers against drunk drivers are going to be all over the case. A flight attendant has the right when to cut you off. The problem is casinos, blackjack dealers, technicians who watch people play the slot machines do not have the right to cut you off. And that's wrong. And that's where people get into trouble. You see the difference?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if
That's what makes me passionate about what I do. Because I hate, I can't stand, I loathe when I see somebody who's a good person that has bad things happen to them. I was one of them, and I wish that I had a Howard to help me, but I didn't.
absolutely.
I either did it on my own, or in the end, I repeat, I'm lucky that I had my family behind me to help me.
Now, a question I have is, what can people do if they feel somebody in their family has an addiction problem like this?
Well, what I would tell them to do, and again, this is not an infomercial like the pillow guy, I would suggest they call me. I don't know if you're allowed to give out my number, my
Absolutely.
email address. Okay. My number in Montreal, area code 514-659-5621. Once again, 514-659-5621. You can always send me a text. That's really the easiest. I'll give you my email address. Text messages I always answer within 12 hours. My email address is my name, Howard, HOWARD, like David, at the, THE. My last name now, Riback, RIB, like Blackjack, ACK, like Keno, Group, GROOP.com, Howard at the RebackGroup.com, 514-659-5621. And if not me, that's fine. You can go to your local police department, your local shelter, your local mental health advocate, your local hospital. There's always somebody that can help. Always somebody that can put you on to somebody else if they in fact don't know who to. So, always. There's always people out there to help.
What's your advice for young people that can't wait till they turn 18 or 21 who want to go to casinos?
The answer is, Charlotte, that the fun is not all that it's cracked up to be. No different than drinking. Drink like a fish at a party, but you will end up getting sick, vomiting, and have a headache like there's no tomorrow. Or drugs, which you get sick and it's dangerous. Look, let me be very clear. I am not here to be Mother Teresa. I am not a rabbi. I am not a priest. I'm not telling you that you have to abstain for the rest of your life. But what I am saying is my mantra is moderation is consideration. Too much of anything is no good. You want to have 2 egg rolls for dinner? That's fine. Don't have 67.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go for a pizza? Don't have 32 slices.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a cigarette every couple of weeks? Don't have 2 packs a day. I still believe in the year 2023, we are, as Homo sapiens, bright enough to know the difference between right and wrong. And never, ever walk into a casino with more money than you're willing to leave behind. How's that for advice?
Gotcha. Howard, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's absolutely a pleasure. It's an honor. And I urge anybody out there, call me, get in touch with Charlotte. She can put you in touch with me.
Mm-hmm.
Call your local advocate. But if you feel there's a problem, and let's be honest, you know who you are. If you have a problem, if you're thinking, do I have a problem? That means you do have a problem. So please, I urge you, take care of yourself. This isn't a joke. Charlotte, thank you ever so much. And from Montreal, Canada, I say thank you for your time, and it was a complete honor and a complete pleasure. All the very best to you and all your California hunt listeners.
Thank you so much, Howard. You have a good rest of the evening, okay?
All the very best to you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, that was Howard Riback. Okay, let me turn this over here. That was Howard Riback, and yeah, I mean, that, like I said in the beginning, even though the show started out kind of shaky because of the graphics issues, as I said in the beginning of the show, I remember back when I was working out in Roseville, and they were just building a casino out there, and I was new at it, so I didn't know. I was going to the Indian casinos up in, Native American casinos up in Jackson at that time, and it didn't bother me because I never run into anybody that had problems, but there were a lot of parents that were upset that they were putting the casino in because they thought that their kids were going to turn into gambling addicts, and so I mean, I just kind of went, okay, fine, and wrote the stories up, and I didn't give it a second thought. But after hearing Howard and reading about different cases about this stuff, it happens more often than not, and it's something that families can help out with and get a hold of people like Howard. It's good there's people like Howard out there that have that experience. Okay, shifting gears. Tomorrow night we'll be back at our usual time at 6:30 p.m. Pacific with Casual Fridays and Nancy Matz, and we're going to be talking about the red brick of God. What's that, you ask? Glad you asked that. The red brick of God is that what I call is my V8 moment. Those things that happen that slap you right in the face and wake you up and are life changing, kind of like what Howard went through, with his gambling, and then now he helps people. Sometimes it takes a real good slap on the side of the head to get yourself back on track, and that's what we call finding God. You laugh because sometimes people you meet in your life, that were maybe jerks to you or something, all of a sudden they're nice to you because something's happened to them. They had a heart attack or something weird's happened to them like that. And I always say, oh, so-and-so found God. And that's what that is. That's what we call the red brick of God. So we're going to be talking about cases of the red brick of God. And I know Nancy's known people that have run into that literally. And that's what tomorrow's topic is going to be with Nancy Matz. Okay? I hope you guys liked the show tonight. I'm sorry for the slow start and the uneven start because I was trying to get things working on the computer and nothing was being cooperative. What else is new? An old computer. But I think it turned out pretty well, and I'm real glad Howard came on because it's a message that has to go out to everybody, and I mean everybody. All right. If you're watching from Facebook and you like what you saw today, please be sure to give us I see a couple hearts up there. Please be sure to give us hearts, thumbs up, happy faces, all that good stuff. Same thing with YouTube. If you're watching from YouTube, be sure to do the same thing. Always looking for that to keep moving up in that algorithm. Keep us up there. If you haven't done so already and you like what you saw tonight on Facebook, please be sure to follow. You can follow me directly, or you can follow the numerous California Haunts pages, plus the California Haunts radio pages. Same thing with YouTube. There's a little ghost in the bottom right-hand corner down there, and if you click on that, that'll subscribe you to our videos. We have over 581 videos sitting at YouTube, and they're different topics like this. We just don't always cover ghosties and things like that. We we like to cover stuff like this to help people. I mean, I'm in it to help people. When I became a newspaper reporter, that was my goal. My goal was to get news out that would help people. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did throughout my career. So I'm still continuing. I brought that forward to this. All right. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are Cal Haunts. If you want to find us over at TikTok, we are California Haunts over on TikTok. And at Twitch, I believe we are Cal Haunts. And if you want to find me over Instagram and follow me over there, because if it should TikTok go down, I'm going to be transferring all the TikTok stuff over to Instagram. That is Ghosty Gal, and it's all lowercase. All right. So anyway, like I always say, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here. We're just trying to get the word out about this show. It's like the little show that it's like that little the little train that could, right? That engine that could. This is a little show that could. Every month we get more and more popular. Every month there's more downloads. Every month there's more views. And boy, we're like on that ball thing, and Indiana Jones, where it's just rolling, and we're building up. And I appreciate each and every one of you, George out in France, everybody from around the world that listens to us. It's incredible. It's incredible to see that map and where it lights up. I'm just really excited about that. Anyway, again, Nancy Matz will be with us tomorrow, usual time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And again, thank you guys for coming. Oh, and the Patreon. You guys haven't checked out the Patreon yet. You guys need to go over there. Patreon's really cool. I've got a new video up over there, and I think you guys are going to like it. That video won't be released for like 2 weeks, so you guys should check it out, because that's what the Patreon's about. It's about early views of those videos. And not only that, I think starting next week, I think Nancy is going to come on and do extra questions and answers and readings over at the Patreon. So we're going to set up a night for that. So just to let you guys know and have a heads up, but it's only for Patreon members. So go over and check out the California Haunts Patreon. Just type in California Haunts Radio Patreon, and it'll take you right over. Okay? All right. Well, I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let you guys get back to your evening. And I hope you like the show, and I hope it hits home and all that good stuff. And I will see you tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Bye-bye.